Hello and welcome. My name is Grant. I'm the owner of Grant's Heating and Air. And today I'm coming to you with an important message. I've been thinking about this for a while and how to get this out. So please like, subscribe, and share. This could potentially save you or your loved ones or your friends tens of thousands of dollars. So stick around till the end to get all the information. Let's dive right in. I want to start with a little bit of information about myself. I started in HVAC in 1996, right out of high school, so I am dating myself. Gosh, it's almost been 3 decades, 28 years in this industry, so I've learned a lot. I started from the foundation up. I was doing new construction in the early 2000s. I started with a brand new company. I was the second employee. And over the years, I learned how to really master my trade. I've always loved doing things right and just making sure everything is done to professional standards. And I ended up actually kind of running the company. I would take over when the boss was gone. And eventually I decided I can do this for myself. I've always been a go-getter. Bought my first house when I was 20 years old. But anyway, I left that company with over 20 employees and I was the second one hired. And I decided to do my own company. I went out and I remember how nervous I was. I was looking up at this big corporate building. I went inside and I was like, hey, can I bid one of your jobs? And they're like, sure, here you go. I was like, wow, I was actually pretty impressed that there was really no hesitation. So I went home all excited with the plans and I did them all out and I sent out the quote. And sure enough, not too long later, I got a call from the company. And they said that the HVAC company that they were using was falling behind. So they gave me an opportunity to come out and show them what I could do. And I really showed them. The superintendent was so happy with my work that he started giving me more work. And eventually we took over the entire project. I hired 8 employees and we just kept going. Then the home crash of 2008 came and the new construction just dove off. The big companies had the money to survive. I was going upside down, so I had to close the company. But I learned a lot from that experience. I learned a lot about employees and business and just so much during that time. But I decided I wanted to learn more. So I went to work for another company. And then I want to give a shout out real quick to my mentor that showed me most of what I've known in this industry. He's French. His name is DDA. Thank you, DDA. DDA had a company that was more like a handyman company. I learned a lot like plumbing and electrical and just all kinds of aspects of the entire trade of home building and small commercial. But over time, DDA decided to focus more on HVAC and close it because it's just so much when you're trying to do all of that. And so we wanted to master our skill in HVAC, so that's the route we went. And I got my certifications in NATE, which is North American Technician Excellence. Those are certifications that are known across the nation. I've got a lot of other certifications and boilers and other things. But I ended up buying a new house with my wife in the mountains, and I was driving so far to get there, I decided I was going to try another opportunity that was closer to me. So I said goodbye and went on to work for 2 other HVAC companies over the next couple years. But I really just didn't like the way they treated me. It was poor practices, I felt. I just didn't like their work quality, on and on, whatever it might be. So over the years, I decided I was going to go back to DDA. And sure enough, he took me back, no problem. But when I came back, things were different. And they were a lot different. He had joined a franchise. And the franchise promised him to help his mom and pop small business to grow and to be very successful. And that's the promise that they give you. But I want to then kind of jump forward now. And over time, I decided I was going to go work for another company that was still within the same franchise. So it was very easy for me to move to the other company. And this one was much closer to my location. As I found over the next couple of years, it was still difficult to drive out to that location for DDA. So I moved on to another company. We went from being honest and just doing good work to a high pressure sales environment. And I want to tell you a little bit about the franchise because I want you guys to know what's going on behind the scenes. So when you show up, there's a card to read. It has basically like a pledge allegiance to this company, and everybody says it together out loud. kind of awkward to me. I really never felt comfortable with it. You know, the uniforms get washed by a company and they smell different, you know, and they're not the laundry that you do. Just a totally different experience. And on the wall, there's a big whiteboard with everybody's name on there. And everybody's ranked based on sales. And so it's kind of like, hey, you know, why aren't you doing better? Why are you, you know, it was just pointing fingers at each other, really just kind of like, hey, you know, it wasn't a very positive environment. It was more of an aggressive sell environment. And I had a hard time with that. But what we learned working for the franchise is how to sell. That is their main goal. They don't really care so much about the customer. It's all about the numbers. So what we learned, and here's where I want to give you some of that inside information. They're taught to have a minimum sale. If a technician shows up to your home, they're taught to sell minimum $700, sometimes $1,000 or more dollars. So they're going to find other things that are wrong with your equipment. And maybe a lot of you out there have experienced this, where a technician will tell you you need to replace this and this and this, and it becomes this big bill when really in reality it might have only been one thing. So I want to just tell you a quick story and kind of an example on this. So I had a customer who knew he had a problem with his furnace, and he called a company out. They came out and sold him a new control board, like a new igniter and some parts. And when they left, nothing had changed. But the customer spent over $1,000, but realized he still had the same problem. So this is what we're running into, is these franchises just want to sell, but they don't want to train and train. They don't want to make sure their technicians actually know what they're doing other than how to sell. And so when we came into the job under Grant's Heating and Air, during a simple maintenance, we were able to determine that the gas pressure was low, and we just brought it up to where it needed to be. And now the furnace was at twice the output. This customer was thrilled. They actually fight over the serial numbers at the shop. If you have a 10-year-old or older furnace, you got guys fighting over that serial number because they're a lot more likely to make a sale on a 10-year-old furnace or older than an earlier furnace than that. The franchises are teaching the technicians to come out and build a list of items that they think should be replaced. They're going to tell you your inducer motor is getting old or making some sound, the blower motor pulling too many amps, the igniter has a lot of white on it. Whatever they want to come up with, they're going to build a list of repair items. The more they can build, the easier for the sale of a new furnace. Okay, so now that you guys know what they're taught to do, let's talk about the number one thing to watch out for, okay? That's going to be the high pressure sales of a technician or a maintenance tech. When they come in and build a big list of repair items and then tell you today they can get you a new furnace for a great deal, that's a red flag, okay? Be careful of that. That is a franchise taught sales tactic on to sell you a new piece of equipment. Now let's be honest here. If you properly maintain your furnace, you should see 20 years of operation out of it. So keep that in mind. Now, obviously, we always recommend yearly maintenance to check on the heat exchanger to make sure things are safe, but you should see 20 years out of a maintained piece of equipment. Another tactic that they use is a low price maintenance. So you guys might have seen $39, $49 maintenances, red flag, okay? Think about what it costs for a business owner to get his tech in the truck, start the truck, drive it down the road, get to your house, spend that time there. At $39, you're taking a loss. Okay, so here at Grant's Heating and Air, we charge $125 per piece of equipment because our technicians spend 1 hour on that piece of equipment, going through with a PDF report, digital photos they're going to share with you. They're going to tune the furnace if it's never been commissioned properly, and they're going to clean it. So you're going to get a lot of value. And that $125, really, the company's not making any profit on that. That's just covering our costs and giving you a fair value for what you've paid for that maintenance. So be wary of the cheap maintenance price. We have companies now, as I'm filming this in the beginning of 2024, we have companies local here that are doing it for free. They're literally coming into your home for a free maintenance. Red flag. It's so they can get their foot in the door and sell you more. Okay, so just be wary of the inexpensive maintenance prices. Another thing to look out for is a carbon monoxide scare. A lot of technicians know, I don't know how many times I've seen this. There are some meters out there that read carbon monoxide that are not very expensive, and there's a reason why. They calibrate them, to the normal 0, then they put them to a heat source, so your heat register, and as that heat goes by the sensor, it actually messes up the calibration and brings the carbon monoxide levels up. And they're using this as a scare tactic to tell you, look, there is carbon monoxide leaking out of your furnace. We need to sell you a new furnace. Now, here's kind of a way to know if that technician is lying or not. If I go out to a job and I determine there's carbon monoxide, now we use $1,000 plus combustion analyzers to determine this. And I'll talk more in another video, because carbon monoxide readings on a meter is not always indicative of actual crack. I have pictures of massive cracks in heat exchangers that read 0 parts per million. And really the reason, real quickly, is just because there's more pressure in the blower going up to the cabinet than there is coming out of the heat exchanger. So that air just goes into the heat exchanger and up and out of the flue. So you don't always know that you have a cracked heat exchanger because of a carbon monoxide reading. And I'm going to show you guys another video on that. I'm going to share pictures on how to know when it's a crack, not a scratch, and so forth and so on. But anyway, they use this scare tactic to get you to replace the furnace. But here's how you know if they're lying or not in most cases. If I go out and I find a true carbon monoxide leak in a piece of equipment, I am decommissioning it. I am shutting it down. I am red tagging it. I'm pulling the control wires off. I'm turning off the gas. I'm shutting off the power, and I'm giving the customer an immediate quote. And I'm also having a technician bring out some space heaters, make sure they're still comfortable while we get this sorted out. A technician who is lying will typically allow your furnace to stay operational and use the scare tactic to get you to try to buy a new furnace. So that's one way of knowing that a technician could be lying about your carbon monoxide leak, is them leaving the furnace operational. Because obviously carbon monoxide is very dangerous and can kill you. So if a technician truly knows there's a leak, shut down that piece of equipment. This is why I started Grant's Heating and Air, because I don't believe in lying to the customers, and high pressure sales is the answer. I believe that you should have customers for life. Eventually, they know they need to replace that furnace, that AC, and they're going to use you because they trust you and you've been taking care of their equipment year after year. In most cases, we actually can tell a customer, you're getting close to needing to replace this piece of equipment, so let's start planning. And so it's much nicer that we can actually give a customer heads up, and they can have a year, 2, sometimes 3 years to prepare for a furnace replacement, and we can give them a ballpark price so they know what they're up against. I don't know how many customers have called me and they're scared. They've been given this big number and they had no idea that this equipment was going to cost that. Especially these days, things are going crazy with inflation, and the cost of materials and everything has gone so high that we still get a lot of people are like the wow factor. Like, I had no idea it costs that much to replace my furnace. So using a company that does not use high pressure sales is going to be much more beneficial for you and give you the time you need to prepare to replace your equipment. And that is actually why we call ourselves specialists in our field as well. We're not like the family doctor where you go. We're the specialist doctor that you're going to see. But we also have a fair price. We do the job right, and that's just my little plug for my company. So I want to share with you another scare tactic we've seen some very large companies here. They'll load up a bunch of furnaces in their shop. They'll take in a ton of them, and then they'll look at the serial numbers and they'll say, oh, okay, this is the BTU and the blower, and they'll put those furnaces on their van for that day. They'll go out to the call, build that list I talked about, but they'll tell the customer, hey, but today we can install a new furnace right now, give you that peace of mind that your furnace is going to last, give you the new warranty, all that. Be careful of that. That is another scare tactic, another way that they're getting a sale right now. And the same guy will go grab that furnace out of his van and install it today. That's not good. Please know that every job we do, we do a load calculation, we check the ductwork static pressure. We're going to make sure that the piece of equipment that we sell you is correct. We're not going off of what was put in by the last company, because here in Colorado, we find most companies oversize equipment. ACs, furnaces, most of them are oversized. So if you do a proper measurement, a proper manual J, which is your load calculation, we find that most furnaces can be smaller than what was in there. And with the change of the blower technology, the same furnace that matched the one you have can actually be louder because the new blower motors will ramp up under resistance. This creates more noise, and now the customer isn't as happy with their new furnace. Like, why is my new furnace louder than my old furnace? So companies who don't do their homework, who just come right in and tell you they're going to sell you a new furnace right now they have in their van, red flag. Okay, careful of that one. Another tip I have for you guys is the company you might have been using for 10 years or more, don't assume that they're still a family-owned company, especially the large companies that have been around a long time. Unfortunately, in our area, a lot of them are selling to franchise and corporations. So even though they might still have the same name, they might change a little bit of it. It might have went from heating and cooling to home services, because that's a whole nother video on what's happening in our industry too. We're actually seeing all the trades coming together into one big corporation where they can have an a la carte efficiency program where they're going to offer you new windows and new insulation and new this and that and air sealing, and all of this can come into one company. That's the new push going forward, but that's a whole nother subject, another conversation. Don't be afraid to ask who you're talking to on the phone. Are you still family owned and operated? Ask them that, and they may tell you, oh no, actually we're under new, they might, glamour it or whatever, but be careful, because that means they have the same scare tactics, the same sales. You're expendable. Their marketing funds are insane. They don't care about the customers. They only care about the money. So if you're not going to sell, they're going to market and find somebody else to do it. And that's one of the biggest problems we're seeing here is small businesses like mine are getting buried as customers go into Google for finding an HVAC company. I know companies in our area that are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in marketing. How do you compete against that? It's very difficult. It can be done, but it's difficult to set yourself apart. And of course, we've always had great word of mouth. I've never even had to advertise in 10 years, but lately we're finding that we do have to advertise. We do have to get into Google. We do have to do Google ads, and we have to do search engine optimization, all those things just to be noticed anymore. So don't be afraid to ask if that company is family owned and operated. Another thing you can do right off the bat before you even call a new company, check their reviews, check their Google reviews. Sure, you might, if you go on Amazon and you see 10,000 reviews on one product and this similar product has 10 reviews, most people are likely to go to the one that has the most reviews, right? Well, that happens on Google too, but be careful, because these big companies know how to buy their Google reviews, and they do this with bribing customers. I was taught this in the franchise company I worked for. You sell the customer the job, you tell them, I'm going to give you a free thermostat today worth $800 if you could just leave us a 5-star review. Oh, sure, they'll do it. So they love it. So they're buying their reviews. And how you can tell, couple things. One, if the company has like thousands and thousands of reviews, it's probably a franchise company, probably. Then start to read the reviews. Read what they're talking about. Our reviews are honest and they have a little story behind them, a real experience. The bot reviews will be more like, Jeff was great, came out and got it done. We use them all the time. Just simple, easy things to do because the customer was bribed into giving that 5-star review. So reading the reviews is very helpful. Don't just look at the number of how many reviews that company has. So I really hope this video was helpful for all of you out there to look at the warning signs, to kind of know before you call the company what to look for, what to ask for. Just be careful out there. Seeing so many people getting lied to. You know, real quick story, we go out to do second opinions and we will see pictures of heat exchangers that was given to the customer by the other HVAC company. We'll go in and take pictures of that heat exchanger and find nothing, but not only will we find nothing, we'll find that it's not even the same heat exchanger. So another tactic that these companies are using is they'll actually find a customer with a cracked heat exchanger and then they'll use that as a sales tactic over and over again to make you think that's your furnace with your crack, and it's not true. So always get a second opinion when it comes to a cracked heat exchanger, especially if you don't trust the company, you have it in your gut, and especially if they're going to replace that furnace right now, today. Those are all really red flags. Make sure someone comes out and measures your home. Make sure somebody comes out and does a static pressure test. Make sure you get an AHRI matchup, which is going to make sure that your new equipment has been lab tested. Ask about rebates. There are a lot of heat pump rebates out there right now, really pushing to electrify America and get people off gas. And so there's a lot of rebates out there available. And heat pumps are great. I have one in my home. I have an all-electric system in my home. And we sell a lot of heat pumps. But you need to properly size. You can't just go off of what air conditioning unit is already there, is what I'm trying to say. So make sure the companies are doing their homework. Make sure they're pulling out a tape measure. One of the real big advantages to me is having all of this experience, and I go in and talk to a customer about their new furnace. I understand all aspects from the ductwork to the sizing and everything that goes into play. Some of these companies just have salesmen that come out and sell you the good, better, best, and they don't know what static pressure is. They don't understand all that. But, you know, there are companies that do it right, but I'm just giving you guys the kind of the red flags on what to look for, possibly save yourself tens of thousands of dollars. So I hope this was a very helpful video for you all, and we'll see you guys in the next one where I'm going to dive in a little bit more on heat exchangers, show you guys photos and videos of what a cracked heat exchanger is instead of a scratch. Hey, thanks for watching. Super excited to see this channel grow. Thank you guys for all your support, and we'll see you on the next one.